It's never too early to begin talking about the college football season. That is the 2022 college football season. For those who were expecting it yesterday, for my way too early college football top 25, had some technical difficulties. We are back and we have that top 25 here for you tonight. So thanks for those who stuck around. This is going to be a set of rankings that is indicative of how good teams are before they come into the season. Once the season starts, I do everything different. Everybody has a fresh slate. There's nobody who is going to get any preseason influence after that. So this is just a way too early look. So let's take a look, see who is in the top 25. 25, we have Tennessee. Josh Heupel did a great job of getting Tennessee to where they wanted to be, at least for a first-year head coach. I think he did a great job of getting his team in figuring out who is going to be a competitor for them, who is going to be a contributor, and winning football games like they expect. Now, if you are excited for next year, you'll love that they win everything by a track meet. Hendon Hooker does return, which is really exciting. They do lose Velus Jones, though, so have to find a new top target. 24, Coastal Carolina. I think the Chanticleers get back on track now that Louisiana is losing nearly everybody on their roster, and then App State's going to be their only true competition, if you will. Grayson McCall is back to run that RPO offense. I think that's going to be, the rushing attack is going to be really exciting. You have a couple of running backs in that backfield that will also be exciting to join McCall there. At 23, Wake Forest, maybe one of the surprises of college football. Got to the ACC championship game thanks to Sam Hartman and a great offense. A.T. Perry does come back a wide receiver for them, even though Ja'Cory Robertson is going to the NFL. And then they also get Donovan Green back. Donovan Green is freakishly athletic, and I think that he's going to be an exciting prospect in the future, but he's going to be an exciting player for the Demon Deacons in 2022. At 22, Iowa, you can't really count the Hawkeyes out ever, which has just been something that you can rely on. Now, they do lose a couple of key players, well, really 5 big names, if you will. Tyler Linderbaum was a monster, and you can see the other key losses, but they do get a couple of guys back that will be helpful for them. Jack Campbell is one of the best linebackers in college football. They do have a couple secondary players that will contribute as well. Still going to be a stifling defense. The offense, led by Spencer Petras, they'll probably have a quarterback battle after this year, but Spencer Petras at times was pretty good. So Iowa's going to be a contender in the Big Ten, especially in the Big Ten West. LSU comes in at 21, maybe a surprise here. I think the fact that Brian Kelly is running the program at Orgeron is a big factor in that. Miles Brennan does return. I think he's one of the players that we don't talk about enough in college football. I think he's better than people give him credit for, and this offense is going to be exciting. Keishawn Butte does come back, so that's a 1-2 combination that I think a lot of people will enjoy watching. Wisconsin comes in at 20. They're going to get back to running the football like they have, but more efficiently than they did in the couple years before this year. Braylon Allen, they found as their go-to back. He is going to be the next great. If you haven't watched him, I recommend going back and watching the Badgers this year. He is phenomenal running the football. He's a beast to take down, but also has a little giddy up to him, so this is going to be exciting. The defense, if Leo Chenal and Jack Sanborn do decide to return, this is going to be one of the best defenses in college football. So this Wisconsin team could go up. I'm not sure what they're going to do. I feel like Chenal is going to go pro. It's just a matter of what he does there that can really determine how high this team can rise. Pitt, the ACC champions, do lose Kenny Pickett, but they snag Keaton Slovis in the transfer portal. He gets to throw Jordan Addison, one of the best wide receivers in college football this year. The offense should be fun to watch. The defense will be good. Again, I think they have good depth in the backside of that defense, especially at linebacker. Defensive line will probably be just as good as they were this year as well. 18, I have Houston. Houston made it to the AAC championship game this year. They appear ahead of schedule under Dana Holgorsen. They do lose a few key pieces. Marcus Jones is one of them. They lose Demarion Williams at cornerback as well. That defensive line is still loaded, though. The offense took a step forward. I think Clayton Tune found some consistency, and his top target, Nathaniel Dell, is one of the best in college football. He's not the biggest guy. He just knows how to get open. He knows how to make big plays. Houston is going to be arguably the best team in the AAC next year, and they're a team that's going to be tough to beat going forward. Oklahoma comes in at 17. Now, my only concern with Oklahoma is that they keep losing a bunch of key players. Caleb Williams put his name into the transfer portal. They already lost Spencer Rattler at quarterback, so quarterback's going to be a position in question. Jalen Hazelwood put his name in the portal. Just today, as I'm recording this, Mario Williams put his name in the transfer portal. There's a lot of guys that are leaving, so I just don't know. I don't think you can exclude them out of the top 25, but they're not headed in the right direction. Brett Venables definitely has his hands full with this one. NC State comes in at 16, arguably one of the most underrated programs in college football. I think that this team returns a ton of talent, and talent you're probably not talking about. Now, they need to find a running back, as both Zonovan Knight and Ricky Person are going to the NFL draft, but they do get Devin Leary back at quarterback. He also will need to find a wide receiver that's not Emeka Emezi. Key guys are gone, but they do have talent returning. Even without those guys, they have good depth too. The defense will be very tough as well. At 15, BYU. Losing Tyler Algier is going to hurt, but they do have a couple of backs that they will go to. Jaron Hall returns at quarterback, so that's huge. And then Puka Nacua emerged really kind of out of nowhere. I think that people talked about him a little bit coming to the season, but he kind of exploded, gave them more than I think they were expecting. This is a team that you're going to be hard pressed to find a team with more experience returning. Even seniors, transfer portal, you name it, there's not really a lot of guys leaving BYU. So it's going to be an exciting team to watch once again. We saw what they can do against the Power 5 schedules, so it's going to be exciting to see what they can do in 2022. Baylor at 14, one of the surprises of college football going to be, went from one of the worst programs in the Big 12 2 years ago to the champions of that league. Going to be great to see what Dave Aranda is able to do in this offseason. Can he, the biggest question is going to be quarterback. Is Gary Bohannon going to take another step? Are we going to see someone else take a step for him? And then there's just talent everywhere. Siaki Ika is one of the best defensive players in college football, someone that I don't think we're talking about enough. You'll definitely get to know him as the season progresses. 13, I have Miami. I think that Mario Cristobal inherits a program that is still very, very talented. Tyler Van Dyke is one of the best quarterbacks we're not talking about. I think he found his stride towards the end of the season, and he's going to have, I think, a big year in 2022. That's assuming that they don't add a transfer. I know that Caleb Williams' name has been thrown out, but Tyler Van Dyke is very, very good. And you look at, they get Tyreek Stevenson back on the defensive side of the ball. Running back Jalen Knight is going to be an explosive playmaker for them as well. Oregon comes in at 12. They lose a ton of key pieces. Kayvon Thibodeau obviously is going pro. No one really was surprised by that. Micah Wright's probably going pro as well. But they do get Noah Sewell back. I think Sewell is one of the best players in college football. And he is going to be the best linebacker next year in college football, and then he will go pro as well. They did add Bo Nix in the transfer portal, so they don't have to really worry about the quarterback position. Although you could see Ty Thompson winning that job as well. It's going to be a good competition, but this is still a very talented Oregon team, one of the best in the Pac-12. At 11, Clemson, I think they do bounce back next year. Dabo Swinney has a lot to figure out on his coaching staff, but also on his roster. Having an offense like they do, they're going to have to figure out what their new identity is going to be now that Tony Elliott is off to Virginia. So he has to find not only a new offensive coordinator, but a new defensive coordinator with Brett Venables going to Oklahoma. So both his coordinators left. Going to lose some talent on the defensive side of the ball, but this is a defensive line that's absolutely loaded. Brian Bresee is one of the best defensive tackles in college football. Miles Murphy is one of the best defensive ends. And then they just have guys everywhere. I mean, Clemson's been recruiting as good as anybody in the country. So to expect them to stay down for long is really unrealistic. Now we get into the top 10. This might be a little bit of a surprise. I have Arkansas at 10. I think that this is a team that you definitely have to pay attention to. Sam Pittman's doing a phenomenal job of getting his guys to play at a higher level. KJ Jefferson returns to run the show on offense. He gets Jaden Hazelwood from the transfer portal to throw to, and then they have a trio of backs that will be exciting to watch as well. The defense will be solid. They get a boost with the return of safety Jalen Catalon. I think he's going to be a great talent at the next level too, so he gets another year to develop his skills, but he also gets to run a defense that should be super talented and again, tough to beat. Notre Dame is at 9. They're going to have to find a new quarterback, whether that's Buckner or Drew Pine, Tyler Buckner or Drew Pine. That's going to be a different look. Tommy Rees is still running the offense, so they know kind of what to expect. Chris Tyree takes over for Kyron Williams. They're going to have to find a couple of offensive linemen. Kyle Hamilton won't be back at safety, so the defense will have a couple of positions to fill, but I don't know how they're going to fill Hamilton's shoes. Isaiah Foskey is going to be one of the best defenders in college football. If you didn't watch him this year, he emerged as a guy kind of popped up out of nowhere, but he's going to be one of the best defenders in college football. Texas A&M, Jimbo Fisher did a great job in the offseason doing recruiting, but he also found a way to add LSU transfer Max Johnson. That also sealed the deal really with getting his brother Jake Johnson. The freshman I don't know if he's not going to contribute this year, but with Jalen Weidermeyer going pro, the tight end position is suddenly open for Texas A&M. Devin A-Chain is going to be an exciting player to watch for them. I think that if Aeneas Smith is coming back, then he is going to be another player to watch. Zach Calzada enters the transfer portal, but they did add Johnson. There's going to be a quarterback battle with Johnson and Haynes King, and maybe even Connor Weigman's going to be in that conversation as well. But this is still a super talented team, and even on defense too. They lose their entire defensive line, but they have guys like Damani Richardson on the back end that can make life a little bit easier. Oklahoma State, another surprise in the Big 12, with Oklahoma kind of taking a step back. Someone had to take a step forward. Oklahoma State is one of those teams. Spencer Sanders looked a little bit better this year. Still some limitations in his game that we would like to see him fix, but still an exciting team. They're going to have to find a new running back now that Jalen Warren is gone. They'll have to find a leader on the defensive side of the ball with Malcolm Rodriguez leaving too. So there are positions to fill, but they do have players coming back that are still super talented. There's going to be a lot of competition near the top of the Big 12, and Oklahoma State is going to be one of those teams. Michigan State at 6. The Spartans were a surprise under Mel Tucker, thanks largely to Kenneth Walker. Peyton Thorne took a step forward in his development, but he gets his top 2 wide receivers back. The defense is going to be exciting to watch. They added 4 great players to their 3 to the defense, 1 to the offense. Chris Boga comes from Florida. Aaron Brule and Jacoby Woodman come in at linebacker. 1 from Mississippi State. Woodman is coming from UNLV. And then you get Jalen Berger from Wisconsin to take over for Kenneth Walker. I think that this is still one of the best teams in the country. Are they able to win a Big Ten championship remains the question, but Mel Tucker obviously surprised us once, and maybe he can do it again. Michigan comes in at 5. Obviously, they didn't want to end their season the way they did. Kind of a disappointing performance against Georgia, but this is still one of the best teams in college football, and they return nearly every starter. They lose Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo are going to go pro. There's a couple other guys that maybe will join them Hassan Haskins declared, Daxton Hill declared. But you get guys like Cade McNamara back, J.J. McCarthy. It's going to be a quarterback battle. We all knew that. Haskins might be gone, but Blake Corum is going to be the running back for them. And then they have a plethora of pass catchers that are going to contribute. This is still, like I said, Jim Harbaugh has one of the best teams in college football. And since they were able to win the Big Ten, there's no reason why they can't do it again in 2022. Utah comes in at 4. This may be a little bit of a surprise. I think that the Utes were playing as good as anyone towards the end of the season. Cameron Rising really developed well towards the end of the year, and their game against Ohio State, while it was still a loss, was super thrilling. And I think that he and Tavion Thomas give them a solid backfield, one of the best in college football. They're going to need to find a new leader now that Devin Lloyd is going pro, but they have a guy in Clark Phillips at corner that's going to be one of the best in college football. The freshman was phenomenal this year and should do more of the same next year. Ohio State is at 3. Ohio State, I think, is going to have the best offense in college football next year, and that's without Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. Jackson Smith and Jigba showed out in the Rose Bowl, over 340 yards and 3 touchdowns. But you also saw guys like Emeka Egbuka and Marvin Harrison Jr. step up. And I think that this is an offense. You throw in even Trayvon Henderson. They get Demonte Traynham, the running back from Arizona State, who they're going to transition to linebacker. There's pieces there. You just got to fix the defense that has talent but was very porous in both the Rose Bowl and towards the end of the season, really all season. But this is still a talented team. They have the talent to turn things around and still contend for a national championship. Alabama comes in at 2. Bryce Young returns. The Heisman Trophy winner has to find a new top target. Whether or not they're able to beat Georgia still remains to be seen. And you know, we're gonna find out pretty soon. This video is coming out before the national championship, so it's gonna be interesting to see what they can do. Now, next year, Brian Robinson is going to be gone, but what do they do to replace him? They added Georgia Tech running back Jahmyr Gibbs in the transfer portal. They also added Eli Ricks to join a secondary that's been kind of hit or miss this year. So this is a very talented secondary, but I think that adding Ricks gives them maybe a little bit more stability. This is still going to be one of the best teams in college football. Alabama is not going to take a step back. Doesn't matter who you are. Nick Saban's going to find a way to reload and get them back on track. Georgia comes in at 1. This is my top team. They lose a ton of talent, but I still think that Kirby Smart has this program in a dangerous place, and dangerous, I mean, for the rest of college football. You get Brock Bowers back, the best tight end in college football. Stetson Bennett and JT Daniels are assumed that you're going to be back. You get a ton of players that are going to be competing, or they're competing right now, and they're going to be starters next year. So I think that this is still one of the best teams, and really the best team to me next year. You put Alabama, Ohio State, and this team together, and honestly, you could debate that all day. But Georgia, very good team, very talented. They're bringing a ton of talent in, and they're starting to see some great results under Kirby Smart. This is who I have as number 1, but I will always entertain our other arguments. Obviously, Alabama is a team that's in consideration for that as well, but I just have Georgia number 1 for now. Things obviously can change once spring ball is gone and then once the season begins. Who do you have in your top 25? Who do you have in your top 5? Who is too high? Who is too low? Make sure you comment below, and let's talk about next year already. It's never too early to start talking about it, and these kinds of videos are fun to make. These kinds of lists are fun to make to see what everybody has to say about them. So until next time, this is your top 25, and let's hear what you have to say.